Testing.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's 2 o'clock, and I would like to welcome everyone to call the Finance Government Operations Committee, FGOC Committee meeting to order. At this time, I am Supervisor Otto Lee, the chair of this committee, along with Vice Chair Supervisor Susan Ellenberg. With both supervisors present, we have a quorum. Then let's move to item number 2, which is our public comment. This is the item that's reserved for members of public to address the committee on any items not on this agenda. Any public who wish to address the committee on items not on the agenda should request to speak at this time. The law doesn't permit a committee action or extended discussion on any items not on the agenda except under special circumstances. Let's see, clerk, how many people do we have lined up to speak?
We currently do not have any virtual or in-person speakers.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll give it a few more seconds in case people are not aware. So, okay, let's try again. Do we have anybody who'd like to speak to this?
No virtual speakers.
All right. Today's been a quiet day. It was the same reception I had this morning when I chaired another meeting at the VTA. So, all right. Item number 3, approve consent calendar and changes to committee's agenda. Item 3 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Supervisor Ellenberg, I have no requested changes to consider for today's agenda, given that's fairly light, and then I think these are all worth hearing. Do you have any changes that you would like to reflect on the consent calendar?
I do, Chairperson Lee, with your agreement and at your pleasure, I would like to add items 6 and 8 to the consent calendar and pull items 10 and 11. So an even exchange here. Item 6 is the cash report. Item 8 is the report on gender responsive work in the jail. I'd like to leave it on consent today and request that that report be heard at PSJC in May. Item 10 is the Harvey Rose contract, and I believe we need to pull it in order to direct recommendation to the full board. Item 11 is the departmental budget request for FGOC, and I have a couple of questions and comments.
Okay, so would you want to pull 11 to regular agenda then?
Pull 10 and 11 to the
Okay.
regular agenda and put 6 and 8 on consent.
Excellent.
That
Yeah,
would be my
I-
motion.
Okay, I actually do have some comments I need to make on 6 and 8, so
Oh.
we'll just go ahead and leave those on
Okay.
regular and then post 10th and 11th. So, all right.
All right.
Just to make it clear to the audience, today we'll be actually hearing item 4 all the way through 11 under the regular calendar. And so basically there will be nothing on the consent calendar then. Okay? And so if that's the case, then I don't think we need to talk about or have any speaker on the consent calendar. All right, then if that's the case, let's move on to item number 4.
Oh,
We have to.
pardon, we do need a vote for this, for the consent.
Do we need to move the consent one with nothing on consent?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Vice Chair Ellenberg. You make a motion for that?
Oh,
you-
I will make a different motion, you're right, because I motioned with 6 and
Correct.
8. I motion that we accept the consent calendar with the removal of items 10 and 11.
Okay, now go and second that.
Great. Vice Chairperson Ellenberg
Yes.
and Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well. So that's votes unanimous. So in that case, we're going to hear all items today from 4 to 11. And so first item on the agenda, number 4, is a report from the Facilities and Fleet and Procurement Departments relating to the status of county-managed cafeterias and a request for proposals related to coffee carts. And I believe here to present this item is Jeff Draper, our Director of Facilities and Fleet, and Justin Sidhu, and Senior Management Analyst. And anybody
Good
else would
afternoon.
introduce yourself, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Lee and Supervisor Ellenberg. Justin Sidhu with the Facilities and Fleet Department. We have a short presentation if you'd like. Otherwise, we can jump into questions on the report if you'd want to go that direction.
Sure. If your presentation is fairly short, go ahead and do that.
Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. I will turn it over to Michelle for the presentation.
My name is Michelle Seaton, and I'm the Director of Financial and Business Operations from the Office of the County Executive. Next slide, please, Justin. And, oops. Yes, that one. This is just an overview of the information that is provided in the legislative report. Historically, the contracted cafeteria operators have not been able to successfully run the cafeteria without a subsidy from the county. And so the county is proposing to pilot a new model of cafeteria operations, which is a partnership with a community-based organization, the Office of Reentry Services, and then the Office of the CEO for Cafeteria Operations, whereby we'll run the pilot at the Heading Cafeteria to operate the cafeteria in conjunction with a culinary arts training academy. And this model provides job training and apprenticeships for justice-involved clients and offers a path to future employment and self-sufficiency, while also bringing cafeteria services to the staff, employees, visitors, and clients that come to Heading. This will be funded in part by AB 109, and it is estimated to be an 18-month pilot. And we are we are working with the CBO now to finalize the contract and anticipate coming to the board with recommendations in May. So that's the portion that deals with the cafeteria operations. Next, there is the coffee cart RFP. And so working with the Chief Procurement Officer and Procurement, Jean, I don't know if you want to take this over or just let me continue. I don't know. It's up to you.
You can continue. I'll add a couple comments. Michelle, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we propose to establish a coffee cart working group. We established a working group for the cafeteria operations, and it was a really successful model that led to our proposed pilot. And so we recommend doing the same for looking at coffee carts. And this group will evaluate potential locations, also consider pros and cons of different models, for example, working with the for-profit coffee cart vendor community, non-profit for-profit partnerships and other models, and then also identify an appropriate procurement process. And we would return to FGOC in August of this year with information, options, and recommendations.
And I would simply add, we're looking for a little bit of time there to in August because we're trying to prioritize the reentry services program in front of that, so we get that on track.
And this slide just recaps what we would consider the next steps. Come to the board with recommendations on the cafeteria pilot in May. Upon approval, implement the 18-month heading cafeteria pilot, and then convene a coffee cart working group and come back to FGOC in August. And
Great.
that concludes my presentation.
Right. Well, thank you very much. First of all, is there anybody in public who would like to speak on this item?
We currently do not have any speakers.
Thank you. Go ahead and close the public hearing. Vice Chair Ellenberg, any questions?
Some comments and suggestions. Thank you very much for the report. I'm excited that something is coming back here, and it's particularly gratifying that it's going to be a reentry program. As we think about the coffee cart and potential even further uses, both for our cafeteria space and the outside plaza where we used to have the farmers market, I would really encourage you, maybe through the RFP process, to make sure that our local partners that are doing this work and really incubating small businesses have an opportunity to participate. I know that Vegilution has a food vendor program, Eastside Grown, Prosperity Lab, and Yakanex, I think I don't remember, I didn't put in his last name, work with local businesses run by people of color. I don't know if the Berryessa Farmers Market is an alternative, but I would really encourage you to think creatively and use this opportunity not only as an employment gateway for a reentry population, which is critical, but as a small business economic growth incubator for the strength of our community.
If I may, I think that's the same page. We will do a very diligent effort in the local community to ensure we have a good outreach on it and a full, transparent, objective, fair process. So really appreciate those comments, Supervisor.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks so much, Jean. I'm excited too. And I'll move approval of the item with that additional direction.
Yes, and I certainly second that. First, I also want to thank staff for and fleet, the whole facilities and fleet procurement department is working on this project on these issues that I asked about, because just walking down the cafeteria, the cafeteria that we've had, certainly it's really been sad that since the pandemic started that we have been closed all this time, and it's really a great resource that we have not been able to benefit from. Having being a new member on board when in the middle of COVID, learning that folks have to walk quite a bit of a distance to go get lunch and whatnot. Certainly not just a time sink, but I think it's good exercise for people to do a bit of walking. I understand that. At the same time, we do have that resource, so why are we not using it? So I'm certainly looking forward to this pilot program coming to the full board in May, and hopefully by that, assuming that passes, that it will be actually finally open in the cafeteria the next month. I want to also say how the delighted I am in terms of the amount of thinking that's gone into this, because it's not just get a vendor open a new cafeteria. It's far more involved, because there are jobs training programs that we can offer, especially involving some of our justice-involved clients, along with the reentry program that has been so successful in so many ways that our county is using. So I just want to share a quick story. Is my predecessor, when he was here, Supervisor Cortese, oftentimes would have events and serve food without mentioning where the food came from. And then at the end of the day, after people said, "Oh, these foods are fantastic," they found out that they were actually cooked for folks who's doing this job program with them through reentry. And that has been extremely gratifying to hear for people to understand how important that program really is for job training. So I just wanted to highlight those stories, and also the feasibility of any potential expansion, not just 70 West Heading. How about other places as well, West Burger, Julian, or Charcot Cafeteria as well, if that could be duplicated as a program. So I certainly look forward to all those. Along that line, I also asked about the coffee carts. I think Jeff has heard me a few times, along with James. So I'm excited to see what would come back from your review, and hopefully by August, and this working group would come up with some good ideas. And we're not looking for, quote, a Starbucks. We're really looking for something more local. And I really do hope that this will give us more caffeine, so our employees could be working even harder with more energy. In any case, that's all I have. All right.
Could I add,
Sure,
if you don't
please.
mind, a friendly amendment to my own motion, which would be even after, assuming this is approved by the board in May, I would like quarterly reports to come back to this committee essentially until everything is up and fully operating. Is that,
Yes,
does that
that's
work for you,
acceptable.
quarterly
Absolutely. Sure.
reports?
We want to track. and
Thank
make
you
sure
all
it
so
happens.
much.
So that would be great. Thank you. All right. Any comments? If not, I would just go ahead and let's take the vote.
Vice Chairperson Ellenberg,
Yes.
Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well. And thank you so much again. And looking
Thank you.
forward to those days we could be eating out of cafeteria and having that coffee again. Appreciate it. All right, moving to item number 5. Item number 5 on the agenda is a report from the Office of the County Executive relating to the implementation of fiscal year 23-24 Management Audit Annual Work Plan. And I believe we have Cheryl Soloff to present on this issue. Hi, Cheryl.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So before you today is essentially your opportunity to tell us what you would like to have on the FY 23-24 work plan for our office. And we've provided for you a risk assessment that categorizes the various cost centers in the county according to the pre-established criteria that the committee has approved for this process. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and ask my vice chair any questions you might have.
I do, and some recommendations. Thank you so much, Cheryl, to you and your team for the work on the risk assessment and for the recommended audit areas. What I'd like to do is actually recommend that we don't do 2 of them, but I have suggestions for 2 other areas. But I'll start with the recommendations that I believe that we can postpone. So these would be cost centers I'd like to remove from the audit plan. Behavioral health, first of all, they're working on just a huge range of reporting and strategic planning right now, and there is so much change happening. I frankly don't want to add to their workload over the next year. So my recommendation would be to remove behavioral health, CalWorks, and South County Clinic cost centers from the audit plan for this year. Of course, bring them back next year and we can reevaluate. And then on the public safety and justice audit recommendations, we have really significant work underway on the consent decree in this area. So I would also recommend removing the DA Administrative Service Cost Center as well as the probation cost centers. And then secondly, there are 2 special audits that I'd like to request instead of the specific cost centers. First, I would like to request a special audit on extra help usage. The county has limits on extra help usage in our agreements with our labor unions. And while the board receives annual reports from ESA on departmental adherence to those agreements, I'm interested in a more substantive analysis that includes a 5-year historical perspective, analysis, and reporting on the reasons for the overages and recommendations regarding how the board can solve for over-reliance on extra help. The second audit I'd like to request is for the district attorney's office, which I noted has 2 cost centers on the high-risk list and is eligible to be audited since that office has not undergone an audit since 2008. Through that audit, I would be interested to see a benchmarking of how the staffing, budgeting, and scope of work in our district attorney's office compares to similarly sized counties with similar rates of crime. I'd also like to better understand the downstream effects of the growth of the DA's office, including whether a large prosecutorial staff, including both lawyers and non-lawyers, necessitates increased revenue, increased resources for defense services, courts, incarceration, and or any other demands on the county's general fund. So with those two requested deletions and additions, I would make that my motion to send to the board. Supervisor Lee.
Okay, I'll go ahead and second that.
Thank you.
Let's see, do we have any public who would like to speak on this item?
We do not.
Okay, all right, go and close the public hearing on that one. First of all, I certainly want to thank Cheryl for and your staff for providing the committee the breakdown of the risk assessment by ranking, which is very helpful for us to decide which one really needs to be looked at now versus those we could postpone. And I certainly appreciate the criteria of having qualitative and quantitative component. So give us a bit of a more of a holistic perspective of how we approach here. I believe my understanding is that this will be considered in preparation for a draft annual work plan that will come back to our committee next month, correct?
Yes, it'll come back to you on May 26th.
Okay, good. And, okay, and, okay, let's see, so, right, so the list that we have gone through, I just want to make sure to capture the changes that's being made. You requested to delete the CalWorks program, 4657, the behavior health. I'm just trying to make sure I got the right numbers here.
Behavioral health, CalWorks, and the South County Clinic cost centers.
And the South County Clinic cost centers.
Just
Okay.
want to give them a chance to breathe and regroup with what all of the new procedures and billing, et cetera, will be,
Right.
and then come back and look.
And then the other one you also want to remove was the
The
DA
DA
admin?
Administrative Services Cost Center, as well as the probation cost centers.
Probation cost centers. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then we are now adding the extra help usage and also the DA's office as well.
Correct.
And I just want to ask Ms. Soloff, what do you have any concerns or questions regarding these changes as proposed today?
No,
Okay, all right. And in terms of your workload, you think this is all very much doable, right, for your office?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, is this workload of changes, would it affect the workload that you have? Would that be something that you will be able to accomplish?
We'll come back to you with a more defined plan so that you can see, and if there's more room for additional assignments, then we'll show that then.
Okay, very good. During the work plan. Okay, very good. All right. And yeah, so if that's the case, is there a motion to accept? I believe there's a motion, and I have already seconded, so I guess we can go take the vote.
Vice Chairperson Ellenberg
Yes.
and Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well. Okay, moving to the
Thank
next
you.
item. Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Moving to item number 6. 1 second here.
8.
Yes, item number 6 is receiving the report from the Finance Agency relating to the county cash balances and debt service payments for period ending February 28, 2023. But I believe HXS and SCVMC will be speaking.
My apologies. Is this one of the items that was requested to be on consent?
Oh, okay, that's right, yeah, correct. Well, we requested consent but did not get to consent, so we're going to be going over to item 6
Okay.
right now, yeah.
Perfect.
correct.
Thank you.
Actually, nothing was on consent, actually, at the end of the day, for today, first time ever. So, yes, go ahead.
Well, good afternoon. My
Good
name
afternoon.
is Margaret Olaya, Director of Finance Agency, and with me is the County Treasury Administrator, Brett Tunstrom. We have a very routine monthly cash report for you, which includes the debt. I don't know if you have any questions for us or if you want us to just give you a brief summary.
Okay, I'm not sure your mic is on because we could barely hear you. Yeah.
I'm going to go all the way.
Oh, much better. Yes, yes. Now we can hear you. Okay, all right. Let's see. Also, first of all, I would like to thank for your VMC HHS team for answering our questions before this meeting. Just for the sake of transparency and public purpose, I would go ahead and just highlight those again. From the report and presentation slides, appears that the administration is not so worried about the increasing negative SCVH fund group cash balance, as long as the receivable balance is sufficient to cover the cash deficit with the net liquid assets. That being said, is there a concern regarding how quickly this negative cash balance is also increasing?
Well, from the information we've provided, the hospital system and California public health hospitals across the state have a very difficult time receiving the reimbursements from the California Department of Health. So it's taking the county between 18 months to 2 years to get some of those funding back, which increases the negative cash that you see on the books. So every month that would bring it to you.
Maybe I can add a little bit more.
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Smith.
Yeah, I think the report shows that we have very significant receivables that are due to come to us from the state and the feds, which is obviously good. The problem has been with timing. Excuse me. They've been very slow lately. They're typically pretty slow to begin with, but this year they've been particularly slow. So we are concerned about that. It has mostly an effect on our cash flow rather than effect on the value of the organization. And we're working with our legislative delegation to try to see if we can get some pressure exerted for them to move faster. But at this point, we're in a situation where we're stable, even though we have large negative, because we have significant receivables pending. So to answer your question, yes, we're concerned, but we're doing all we can to try to solve
What's the type of pressure do you think you can exert to get the people to pay the bills faster?
Well, our delegation has been working on trying to influence the agencies at the federal level to push as fast as they can. However, with what's going on at the federal level with the debt limit and a dysfunctional Congress, it's pretty hard to get their attention. So we're working at the local and state level.
Thank you. Now, on this trend fund group, the monthly ending cash balance has been decreasing the past couple of fiscal year from 2.2 to 1.2 billion dollars. Is this something that we should be worried about, and anything else that we can do to try to alleviate that?
Complex question. It's something that I always worry about. I encourage you to worry with me. The things that we are doing are we're trying to, as I said, get as much influence to get the money to us as quickly as possible, but also working on efficiency and effective modification of our operations. We're trying to be very judicious about how we spend, and we're also exploring options for cash flow solutions that are yearly and temporary. So, for example, sometimes we do enter into the sale of trans bonds, which are one-year bonds. We aren't doing that right now, but that's a possibility in the future. There's also inter-fund transfers and loans that can be done. That's something that's relatively easy for us to do. So I think the basic answer to your question is yes, we're worried, but we think we can control the process at this point.
Okay, well, if if there are ways that we can improve this better, or if this balance to continue to drop, so Jeff, please let us know and see what other measures we need to do to speed up these payments. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Have I asked if any public want to speak on this?
You have not, but we do not have public comment.
Okay. All right. Good. If that's the case, Supervisor Ellenberg, do you have a motion to approve this report?
Do we need a motion? Is it just to receive the report, or was there direction?
It's just a motion to receive report, right? Yes.
Sure. I'll move that we receive the report.
And second, and let's take a vote.
Okay. Vice Chairperson Ellenberg
Yes.
and Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well. All right, then we move to item number 7 on the agenda, which is a report from the Office of Sustainability and Facilities and Fleet Department regarding the proposed roadmap to 2020 carbon neutrality for county operations. I believe we have our Director of Office of Sustainability, Jasneet Sharma, and your team here today, joined by Susanna Santiago, Gillian Corral, and David Worthington.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Supervisor Lee. Good afternoon, Supervisor Ellenberg. Jasneet Sharma, Director for the Office of Sustainability. With me today, I have on my left-hand side, Gillian Corral. She's the Sustainability Manager with the Office of Sustainability. We've got Susanna Santiago. She's the Sustainability and Climate Change Manager with Facilities and Fleet. David Berry, the Chief of Facilities Planning with Facilities and Fleet. And we also have joining us virtually, David Worthington. He is the facilities, or take that back, he's the Fleets Manager with Facilities and Fleet. So we do have a team here to answer any questions that you might have. The county established a commitment to carbon neutrality by 2045 a couple of years ago. However, in response to the accelerating climate risks that we are seeing, and to align with state of California to help accomplish greenhouse gas reductions on a statewide scale, the Office of Sustainability and Facilities and Fleet Department, under the leadership of Deputy County Executive Sylvia Gallegos, are presenting a roadmap to 2030 carbon neutrality for county operations for the committee's consideration today. We have a short presentation on the key elements, which will be led by Gillian and Susanna, so I'm gonna hand off to both of them. And just a reminder while Gillian's getting set up that we do have a separate initiative underway to create a carbon neutrality plan for unincorporated areas of the county. So that is a separate initiative which we will bring back to this committee in the coming months.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Jasneet. Go ahead.
Pleased to meet you. I'm Gilly Corral. The scientific evidence today is unequivocal. Climate change is a threat to human well-being and to the health of the planet. The Earth's climate is headed for irreversible and catastrophic conditions if we do not act immediately to reduce climate pollution. Based on the local climate data that you see on your screen, our county is projected to see an increase in extreme heat days and warm nights, extreme wet and dry events, more frequent and intense storms, and an increased frequency, duration, and extent of wildfires. With a 1 to 2 feet increase in sea level rise, which is projected for our area, coastal flooding will also increase. Climate change is also a stress multiplier. By that I mean in Santa Clara County, the climate crisis will amplify existing inequities in housing affordability, food insecurity, income disparity, education, and health outcomes. As seen in the pandemic, certain populations are at higher risk of being harmed, also from climate events based on socioeconomic characteristics and the conditions of the built environment in which they live. We know that the climate crisis is here. The impacts of climate change are already being felt throughout Santa Clara County. These data reflect local impacts from the SU Lightning Complex fire, which resulted in widespread damage. The county incurred significant costs for repair to roads, bridges, parks, and recreational facilities, as well as debris removal. The August to September heat wave was one of the hottest and longest in California for September ever. Peak summer heat for California is usually in July and August, but we know that longer, more frequent, and more severe extreme heat events are expected to occur in our county. In 2022, we experienced 21 heat days above 90 degrees in the county, which surpassed the number of projected heat days for that year. California experienced 31 atmospheric river events this winter season. These storm events from late December through March brought record amounts of rainfall, flooding, high winds, and mudslides with resulting power outages, road closures, and evacuations. These events are very much in line with the climate projections that I've presented today, which alert us to an increase in extreme wet and dry periods. Hence, we saw the severe drought conditions followed by this storm event of a much bigger magnitude than we've seen before, which is caused by warming ocean waters and atmospheric and the atmosphere holding more moisture. I'll now turn it over to Susanna, who will share about the county's emissions profile.
Good afternoon, Susanna Santiago, Climate Change and Sustainability Program Manager in Facilities and Fleet. I'll briefly go over the operation-specific emissions inventory. We are using calendar year 2019 as our primary source of emissions for our carbon neutrality efforts, but have included calendar year 2020 inventory to demonstrate the potential emissions reductions that resulted out of the shelter-in-place order due to COVID-19. In calendar year 2019, employee commute emissions accounted for 61% of total emissions, followed by buildings and facilities at 26%, fleet at 6%, solid waste at 5%, and reimbursed employee miles at 1%. In 2020, the employee commute sector dropped to 47% of total emissions for county operations, and overall emissions are estimated to be 24% less than 2019 as a result of the continued implementation of the county's sustainability master plan and 33.7% of county employees working from home for the duration of the shelter-in-place order. The county is well positioned to take action to minimize the impact of its own operations on the climate. This will enable us to tackle the climate crisis, align ourselves with the state of California and other jurisdictions that are already accelerating efforts, and also maintain the county's leadership in this area. With targeted investments, the county can achieve the goals and objectives shown on these slides from the different emission sectors. The attached roadmap report provides the full menu of actions. However, in this presentation, we will only review the key actions for each sector in the subsequent slides. To be noted, the goals for each sector align with the goals adopted within the county's sustainability master plan. Starting with the building sector, since county facilities currently operate on 100% renewable electricity, natural gas usage is the primary source of emissions for this sector. The two key objectives for this sector, which are to reduce natural gas by 50% in the county's building portfolio and strengthen the all-electric new construction code adopted by the county in 2021, were informed by the facility's electrification study that was recently completed and is attached in this report. There are 12 county facilities which are the top natural gas users and represent almost 90% of the total county building gas use. Valley Medical Center accounts for 30% of total natural gas usage for just the steam absorption chillers alone, followed by our fuel cell systems at 17.6%. Investing in these two can reduce natural gas utilization by nearly 50% to meet the 2030 goal. Reducing emissions associated with employee commute by 85% will require implementing innovative transportation demand management programs and installing EV charging stations. This can be achieved by providing transit subsidies, installing electric vehicle charging stations, and encouraging telework for eligible employees. Transit subsidies would lead to a 10% emissions reduction and could be more with public transit transitioning to cleaner fuels. Based on current charging station utilization and employee commute survey data, It is estimated that 10% of employees will drive EVs by 2024. But by 2030, with 1,000 total ports available, it's assumed that at least 50% of employees will drive plug-in hybrids or EVs, and emissions would be reduced by 50% or more. If we take these three actions, we'll achieve overall 74% emissions reductions from this sector. This slide shows the goals and objectives for the fleet sector. The objectives to achieve a total of 1,000 chargers and replace 75% of the light-duty fleet to be zero emission have been developed to also align with the advanced clean fleet rules and requirements being proposed by the California Air Resource Board, which, if adopted, will require 50% of new additions of fleets to be zero-emission vehicles between 2024 and 2026, and then all new additions after 2027 to be zero emission. Currently, 31% of the county fleet runs on alternative fuels. The total number of light-duty vehicles that are forecasted to meet target replacement criteria from now until 2030 are 1,229, which is higher than the 75% target. Over the next 2 years, the county will install 26 electric vehicle charging ports at 6 site locations and will continue to develop an EV charging infrastructure and light vehicle duty replacement plan. We'll also complete the diesel-free by 33 study that will provide a plan for how the county can switch all equipment in medium and heavy-duty vehicles to a diesel-free source by 2033. Solid waste is our final sector for county operations. The 2030 objectives, as well as Senate Bill 1383 requirements related to organic waste recycling and surplus food recovery, have been included as part of the new waste services for county facilities request for proposals and will be a significant criteria for vendor selection. This July, we will have a new contract that will result in enhanced organics collection, food recovery, and recycling in all county facilities, including our hospitals.
Although the county has laid out an ambitious roadmap to reduce emissions in each of these sectors, we do recognize that due to various factors, we won't be able to eliminate all emissions. And in order to offset the remaining emissions, the county will need to rely on carbon sequestration and carbon offsets. So carbon sequestration is pulling the carbon out of the air and storing it in the ground and in plants. And these practices also provide other benefits such as flood protection, water conservation, and improvements to air and water quality. The county has over 52,000 acres of parks land, which will provide a lot of opportunity for potential carbon sequestration. This will also present an opportunity for the county to be a national leader in this area, which is relatively new for climate action planning. This slide summarizes the key actions across the 5 sectors that Suzanne has presented and overall percentage emissions reduction from each of these actions. These phase 1 actions on the screen are critical to start the county on its carbon neutrality pathway. Many of these projects are already underway, and Susan mentioned a few of them, such as the sub-metering study for the Valley Medical Center chiller electrification plant, the diesel-free by 33 study, and installation of electric vehicle charging stations and fleet electrification. Other projects will require county general funds investment over the coming years. We will also be looking to external sources of funding, such as public utility programs in the Air District, especially for electric vehicle charging infrastructure and fleet electrification. We'll be looking to state and federal sources, such as the Inflation Reduction Act and the nearly $48 million allocated by the governor in the 2021 and 2022 in order to advance the state's climate agenda. And with that, we conclude our presentation, and you have the recommended actions before the committee today. We're available to answer questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for the very comprehensive report. Vice Chair Ellenberg, do you have any questions today?
Yeah, very brief. First, just I thank all of you and Jasneet and Jeff Draper for this really good work, and I am proud of the seriousness with which we are addressing sustainability and reduction of emissions. The one piece that I just kind of want to dive into a little bit is on employee commutes. You listed that the 3 strategies would get us to about 70% toward that goal of 80%. What percentage, but on a subsequent slide, the reduction based on commuters only accounts for about 9%. Do you happen to know, or does anyone up on the dais know about what percent of our employees, or in what raw numbers, are eligible for telework?
I'm happy to answer that. I don't know the number off the top of my head, in part because it's a very specific assessment done at the departmental level based on the specific duties assigned to that person, and also the general nature of the department's work and the specific area where that employee is working, balancing the need to make sure that we have staff on site to do certainly direct service to community, but also to work collaboratively with people they supervise who may be doing that work, to develop the team connections and collaboration and alignment of work and the like. But I don't have that number off the top of my head. I know we can get that for you.
Thanks, Greta. What I'm feeling here is a tension. I understand your very solid and rational reasons for arguing in favor of people being in person, at work, in community, in groups. And we also have a county department highlighting as a major goal of theirs reducing employee commutes. So when we have policies that are really not violently in conflict with each other, but inconsistent to reaching the goals, what is the how do we address that? How do we get to a place where we are seriously pursuing the goals that we've agreed to, while understanding how many different types of employees we have and whose jobs may be appropriate to be done remotely and whose wouldn't?
Yeah, I think it's a really rich and complex question. One thing that I think we really do need to understand more and deeper are the specific climate implications of having folks work remotely, to make sure that on that side of the scale we're thinking holistically about this. So just one thing that we've talked about, including in conversations between the County Executive's Office and the Office of Sustainability, is the fact that we need to offer our employees a place to work here on site. We can't expect people to create an appropriate office space at home, especially that's not economically feasible for a lot of our staff. And so thinking about the fact that we are, for example, maintaining climate-controlled, lighted facilities here, if people are also then not utilizing those facilities, utilizing them at home, running air conditioners in their home environment, we then have 2 spaces set up and utilizing a lot of energy maintained at all times for that same employee, and making sure we're calculating that in addition to the commute value of having them work remotely. We also need to be really attentive to the benefits from a climate change perspective of reducing commute, thinking about the many different ways to do that, thinking about also how we structure availability of telework to maximize our ability to create the benefits of on-site work and team building and knowledge and direct service to community, while also figuring out how to reduce commute. So things like trying to align employee schedules so that if we are going to have a hybrid work schedule for eligible employees, that staff of various teams are working on site together on the days they're in the building, and aligning their telework day so that we are not losing a lot of the benefit of that team building, while also creating opportunities for telework to reduce commute. So lots of considerations and things I know this team is really richly engaged in, and also watching our peers both in the public and the private sector grapple with a lot of the same conundrums, because they often are critically important policy goals and a bit of tension with one another.
Thank
maybe
you.
Can give you some slightly off the question, but just some facts. There's currently, as of 4/2/23, 29% of our employees are teleworking to some extent. The total percentage of telework hours countywide is about 17.8%. Most of the teleworking is done in certain classifications. So SEMA is at the top of the list, and then some of the supervisors, tables from SCIU, and then it drops down significantly. So we have a significant number of people teleworking a significant number of hours already, but we are, as Greta says, looking to be more hands-on and eyes-on so that we can keep a closer track of what's going on.
Thank you. The other point that I want to make is with regard to electric vehicles. Even best case, presuming that costs are going to come down and that they're going to be more affordable and that California may not even have a choice, we still have a huge economic challenge for so many families in so many areas because their home electrical systems simply cannot withstand that addition. Many of them, I'm learning, cannot even withstand the addition of solar. So when we talk about infusing equity through everything that we do, we have to really think about when we are asking for something or incentivizing something that really isn't equally accessible to folks. And a little bit on the flip side of that is if the price of the cars come way down and we really expand our number of chargers, it's quite possible that a work charger could be an employee's primary charging site if they don't have one at home. So I'm certain you're aware of all of these complexities. I just wanted to sunshine some that most directly will impact our 20,000 plus employees. Thank you all again.
Thank you. Before I ask my questions, I would like to see anybody in the public that would like to speak.
We do not have any members of the public.
Okay. That says go ahead and close the public hearing. A couple of questions that came through. First, regarding carbon sequestration and the parkland that we have. How exactly is, well, I mean, this is going to be coming back to us. I just want to understand the concept a little bit more of how we will be able to use our parkland to engage in more of these carbon sequestration projects to come in the future. And what are the type of proposals you think will be coming through?
So I wanted to make sure I understood your question.
Sure.
It was what type of projects?
Yeah, what type of project you think the parkland will be able to be utilized for the carbon sequestration?
So like we said, it is a fairly new area, so we're trying to understand it as well. And one way in which we do it would be by taking on a carbon sequestration study. So as part of that, you want to establish a baseline of a quantified baseline of, okay, what's exactly being sequestered right now? And then we work with the consultants to identify what type of strategies, exactly what you're saying, what type of projects, what type of strategies should we be putting in place for us to sequester more and more of that carbon. It can come from, I mean, the ones I'm most familiar with is things like urban forestry, tree planting, nature-based strategies in which you do that. But I do know it's a fast evolving area as well, so that's why we do want to study it more comprehensively.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I'm just very excited because obviously low emissions, right, is important, but this is actually a more aggressive way of actually getting rid of our carbon that's existing in the air, which is certainly exciting moving forward. And you talked about the chiller electrification, the VMC. I think that's going to be important, and also regarding the biogas for the existing fuel cells, so which we think is, for the bang for the buck. I think that's really amazing how much we will be able to work on those. So thanks for pulling those out. Another area that I'm excited about is also about the EV charging ports for employees. both the vice chair and myself are fortunate enough to be driving electric vehicles, and certainly are benefiting from the fact that there's charging ports here at the county. And I could see that with the increasing number of employees needing it. From time to time, I do see those ports all full, for example. So I think it's certainly important that we make it as available, not just here, but in all the different sites that we have our employees, so that making sure people realize that they will be able to rely on the fact that they could charge while they get to work. I think that's going to be extremely important. And one thing I want to also mention, that given the cost of fuel or unstable, how oil prices go up and down, the cost per mile by electric is really significantly less than the cost per mile by driving in gasoline. I think that's a fact. And I'm not sure if that fact is as widely advertised to the world, because basically your operating cost for your vehicle is going to be much less when you drive. So besides the fact that it's good for environment, green, I think people need to understand that they're saving at least 50% of the cost by electric than gas. And that's the other green that you could be saving on. So. and expecting that, we are going to have some drastic drop of cost of electric vehicles, seeing how aggressive lately on some of these companies lowering the cost of electric vehicles. So I'm really excited to see that will become more and more affordable as time comes, and hopefully that the implementation of electrification will come faster. Right now in our county, when we purchase another vehicle, do we ever still purchase a non-hybrid or non-electric vehicle, or we basically stop doing that?
I can call on, if David Worthington is still on with us in the meeting, I would call on him to answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
David, are you
Good
there?
afternoon. Yes, good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon.
Chair Ellenberger. Yes, we do look at replacing vehicles with the most advanced technology that's available at the time. There are certain duty cycles and operational needs where one of those vehicles or more than one is not available, but we do consider that. As an example, the Sheriff's Department's done a good job in taking their patrol unit vehicles and going from standard gasoline to hybrid electric, and it saves about 50% in fuel costs for the Office of the Sheriff. But we do look at that in all instances, whether it be all electric, hydrogen fuel cell, or any other alternative fuel.
Very good. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are practicing what we preach, right? So I think that's great. The 2030 year, going to carbon neutral is certainly a significant improvement from our last plan, but I certainly think that we should strive to even get there sooner. So the 2030, again, is just a milestone, but I really think there are ways we could get there sooner. That would be wonderful. And finally, I just do want to mention a couple of things. Back in August 21, we championed a referral recommending the exploration of energy and water efficiency opportunities at O'Connor, DePaul, or now we call Morgan Hill, St. Louis Hospitals, and the VMC Bassham campus. And I just really want to thank staff for their continued work on all these fronts, along with all the other efforts relating to making our county-owned facilities more eco-friendly. And again, thank you so much for the wonderful job, Jesney, in your office. And I really look forward for this coming back to the Board of Supervisors for the consideration for adoption. Okay? And I believe we have a motion to adopt and second, so let's go and take the vote.
Vice Chairperson Ellenberg?
Yes.
Chairperson Lee?
Yes, as well. Thank you. All right. Moving to item number 8, which is a report from the Office of Sheriff relating to gender-responsive work in the custody setting. And here to present this item, I believe, is Lieutenant Rita Rowland. From the Office of Sheriff. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair Lee and Vice Chair Ellenberg. We're having some technical difficulty for our PowerPoint presentation, so I'll continue.
Well, thank you. We could hear you loud and clear. At least the mic is working.
Okay.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm Lieutenant Rita Rowland, and I oversee the Elmwood Women's Facility. And joining me today is Laura McCabe. She's a programs manager too with the Sheriff's Administration. She partners with me on the gender responsive work, and we are pleased to share with you today our latest work. This quarter, we were pleased to have been accepted to participate in a special gender responsive training hosted by the National Institute of Corrections. The seminar, Safety Matters, Managing Relationships in Women's Institutions, aims to develop correctional personnel's ability to adopt policies and practices that encourage safe and healthy relationships with and among incarcerated women. The 4-day seminar concludes this month. Additional training includes some of our staff participating in Train the Trainer sessions. The trainers can then teach others what they have learned. The Office of the Sheriff is committed to joining the 30 by 30 initiative dedicated to increasing women's representation in law enforcement agencies nationwide to 30% by 2030. In March, 7 female staff from the Sheriff's Office attended a women's leadership conference in San Francisco called Women in Public Service, Breaking Barriers and Blazing a Path. On March 2nd, the Office of the Sheriff hosted a retreat with members of the Gender Responsive Collaborative. Representatives from the Sheriff's Office, Office of Reentry Services, Custody Health Services, Behavioral Health Services, the County Executive's Office, the Office of Women's Policy, and the Probation Department came together to discuss how they could assist the Sheriff's Office in completing the MOS Group's recommendations. Areas of focus included visitation, discharge and reentry, intake and orientation, and programming. The outcomes from the retreat included developing a case management handbook to assist women with self-reflection as a tool to identify their needs upon release, create a gender-specific orientation for women, create a universal case planning assessment tool, evaluate the current job scope of the rehabilitation officers to encompass the broader work, updating the visitation and lobby areas to create a more inviting and useful space. Post-retreat work has started with the Commission on the Status of Women. Individuals from the Commission on the Status of Women have toured the women's facility and are assisting with the evaluating various spaces, including the women's lobby and visitation areas. Our programs unit has expanded its programming options to include a veterinarian program where women can participate. This successful program has allowed women to receive a veterinary assistant certificate. Several women who started the program while in custody have completed the program post-release and are now working in the veterinary field. In the wellness recommendation area, the Sheriff's Office has restarted the pet therapy program to help provide emotional support for women. This program is designed to help improve the mental health of individuals by giving them emotional support through comfort and unconditional acceptance. The program has allowed women to interact with rabbits, goats, chickens, miniature horses, and more. Interacting with animals can alleviate stress, anxiety, and depression while enhancing positivity and socialization. It is a very popular program. Our plans for this quarter include restarting the Inmate Advisory Council to allow the women in our care greater input on the environment with activities, services, and programs offered. During this quarter, we will explore updating the tablet to include a video call feature and updated content. We will also begin the strategic planning process for the recommendations gained through the Gender Responsive Needs Assessment. We would like to also thank our internal and external partners who have committed to this work, for the work that has thus been done, and for the work that we will continue to do. We are now available for questions.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant, for the report. And first, I'm going to ask Vice Chair, you have any question?
Sure, could you go back to the previous slide? Just a first kind of grounding comment. I'm not understanding why this report is at FGOC. My hoped-for request was to move it to PSJC, where we have all of the people on the dais who were involved. Is there a thought around that? The report is terrific.
So thank you. The reason why it is at FGOC is because when it was heard at the Reentry Network, we were told to either go back to Reentry or to go to FGOC, and we chose to go to FGOC.
Got it. I would like to recommend that going forward, as there are updates, that PSJC really is, I think, the most appropriate place and gives us all of the right people on the dais to have the conversation.
Well, that would have to be a direction of the board or direction of the committee at least, because we need to.
Okay.
It's already assigned.
That's fine. I will make that. I will make that motion that it goes back to Public Safety and Justice going forward. I am delighted that the Inmate Advisory Council is restarted. That's been a long time coming. So thank you very much for that. Does the and the grievance study, that information already comes back to PSJC. The last two bullets, explore updating lobby and visitation spaces. Explore is sort of vague. Does that mean it's not in the budget for the coming year? It's a longer term kind of pipe dream, or could it be achieved without a significant budget increase?
No, it would require budget. The exploration will take time because we want to be able to examine the information that is in there. One thing we're considering offering is kiosks in there for inmates, for those who are released to be able to get information, as well as for visitors to be able to explore county services that would be available. So we're considering that. We're just in the beginning process of that, but we'd need to know sort of what information we'd want to include in that. We're also, there was, during this gender responsive collaborative, it was discussed that we should have murals in the space to make the space more inviting and welcoming. And especially since for those who are released at night, then they have to stay there for the night. So it would give them an opportunity to have access to information and make that time a little more useful. The current VTA information that's up is old, and it takes it's a significant effort to keep up with that. But I think it would be better if there was a kiosk of some sort.
Sure, and I hope that that's coordinated with reentry services, since that's the heart
that would be through this
work.
group. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I have no further questions, but would look for a second for my motion to send future reports on the gender responsive work to PSJC, please.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Second on that. And first, does anybody in the public like to speak on this?
We do. We do have one virtual speaker.
Okay, I'll speak after the virtual speaker for 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Bennifer, you will have 2 minutes to speak. I am unmuting you. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm Benaifer Dastoor, the chair of the Commission on the Status of Women, and I have also been a jail monitor. I want to express my gratitude for the work everyone does, including the Office of Sheriff for the constituents they serve. And I just wanted to make a quick few comments on the report. While we appreciate the presentation in the CSW meeting and the tour of the facilities in April as a first step to resume collaboration with CSW, as mentioned, in the true extent, the partnership with Commission on the Status of Women will come into effect after the jail monitoring program that has stalled since 2020 is resumed, and the commissioners who are trained as jail monitors are allowed monthly visits with the women in Elmwood. CSW designated commissioners or jail monitors are invited to participate in the gender responsive collaborative established by the Sheriff's Office, of which OWP and Re-Entry and other stakeholders are a part of. So we need to be a part for a true collaboration. On the topic of updating the lobby space to create more inviting and inspirational and rehabilitative space, our comments are, while this is good, how about these dollars are spent more on the living spaces, bathrooms, mattresses, clothing for the women who actually live there? So if the dollars are spent there versus lobby, I think it would be more effective to create a better environment for the women who are incarcerated. It is important that they have a voice and a seat at the table when decisions are made about improving their living conditions or facilities or programs. And that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
And that concludes public comment.
Great, thank you. I'll go and close the public hearing for this item. So first of all, I echo your, my vice chair's happiness that the Inmate Advisory Council will be back soon, and the progress that's being made regarding programming and wellness. So thank you. I do have a few other questions I would like to check. First of all, I'm supporting for this item to go to PSJC. I think it's more appropriate committee to deal with these issues and the proper expertise. To add some of my other comments, for the 5 recommendations that came out of the Gender Responsive Collaborative, my question is there a timeline for the implementation on these recommendations?
For the entire recommendations or for the IAC, the Inmate Advisory Council?
Actually, on all of these, yeah. Do you have any?
So the Inmate Advisory Council, we are looking to have our first meeting sometime in June.
In June, okay.
And then the recommendations, as reported before in the past, we have placed them in short, medium, and long-term goals, with the long-term being up to 5 years, I believe. Is that correct? Yes. So it could take anywhere from, I believe some of the work that we have done already, has already been completed. As far as some of the uplifting of some of the units, we're not completed with the entire, area, but we have done some of that work already.
Okay. So previously, when these reports came through the FGOC and also the reentry network, we noticed that the G&A priorities matrix was provided. Can you help us understand, to provide clearly on where those 5 recommendations fall in the previous priority list?
The ones that came out of the Gender Responsive Collaborative, those fall under the case management handbook. That was sort of an entry that it was a part of the orientation from that group. The gender-specific orientation was also from is also in the orientation section. The universal case planning assessment tool that came out of the release group, and the job scope came out of the group that was evaluating looking at the programming ideas. The programming recommendations, and the updating the visitation and lobby space. Also, that came out of the, there actually was a visitation and release group.
Okay. You, as you also mentioned in the future report, that includes the G&A priority matrix, including the status. I see that the last timeline that came to reentry had a timeline of 0 to 2 years, or 5+. But can we also include a column to show the actual progress as well, or if certain items are completed or not?
Sure, we're happy to do that.
Okay. I see, yeah, so as Supervisor Ellenberg talked about having this report coming back to PSJC, I would like to make sure that update on the G&A matrix list is also included. Since we don't see that in the committee, my staff is still monitoring and reviews this item as well. That'll be great. Thank you.
Sure. And
Yes.
Supervisor Ellenberg, would you like this to come, you want this to come back starting in May?
How often do you report it here? This is the first time I've heard the report.
Quarter, it's supposed to be quarterly.
Then at the next quarter, we don't have to do the same report again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Another question I have is regarding the parent visitation programs. Can you let us know the status of the reimplementation of this program?
So it's my understanding, I believe AS Sepulveda has more information, but Dr. Marshall is working with the Community College Collaborative to get some programs for parents. And then as far as the rest of the program, the actual where the children come in, I do not have an update on that, other than he's still working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then the other question relating to the Commission for the Status of Women, and that is what needs to happen for us to restart the CSW Jail Monitor Program, or is it included in the Advisory Council?
We were going to consider the discussing that during the strategic planning process. We feel that that's an appropriate place to give them a really useful guidelines and really help roll them into our system and to make their recommendations more valuable and to give them a purpose that is within our scope.
Mm-hmm. Do you know when that planning work would be happening?
Yes, we started that already, working with the Moss Group. We are working on planning and setting up meetings for the strategic planning. It's very staff intensive if you haven't been through this process before. So 2 of the meetings are going to be virtual and 2 of the meetings are going to be in person. And so at this point, we're expecting that during the next upcoming quarter, we'll finish some of that work. So I would imagine between 3rd and 4th quarter, the whole process will be complete.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I certainly would like to suggest that the Commission of the Status of Women are being made aware of the Moss Group discussions here and visits with the current motion that we have with the additional comments. So we look forward to seeing this report at the PSJC. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, will do.
All right. Very good. Okay. I think we covered everything. And shall we go and take the vote?
Vice Chairperson Ellenberg
Yes.
and Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well. Thank you very much. And then moving to item number 9, which is to receive the verbal report from our Chief Operating Officer, Greta Height.
And I am here. Yes, thank you. So just wanted to highlight a few very quick things for both of you related to key activities that are a focus of both my work and major work going on throughout the county. Of course, as you both know, we are hard at work on finalizing a number of the things that need to be completed related to the publication on May 1st of the County Executive's recommended budget. And happy to answer any questions you may have about where we are in the process of that work, or to turn it over to Greg Aturia, who can provide further details on that. Related to the behavioral health work, that's been a big focus for me personally, as well as many throughout the county over the last many months. We're eagerly anticipating the initial meeting that behavioral health and other key county leaders will have with the RAND Corporation, where in about a week's time or so, we expect to hear the preliminary results of their assessment of our facility and programmatic capacity at key levels of care, and really crystallize what may be the recommendations they'll be making around where our system expansions need to be focused. And I'll just highlight one thing that they anticipate being a part of those reports based on some of the preliminary conversations we've had with them, consistent with the conclusions they've reached statewide and in other communities, that a lot of the pressure that we're seeing at the highest levels of care, the acute and high-level subacute settings, is often a result of needs for greater capacity downstream so that there can be better throughput. So they are anticipating that being a key finding of their analysis of our system of care here. So look forward to getting more information from them and then presenting that to the full board in May. And then without going into too much detail, since it was discussed earlier today at PSJC, I would just say from a criminal justice system operational perspective, we've seen some great progress in taking key steps to address the court backlog, which has such a significant impact on so many county departments operationally in the public safety and justice space, not to mention, of course, the really significant human consequences for longer waits for one's day in court for all the folks who are involved in our criminal justice system, be they defendants or victims or other folks working in the criminal justice system. So good progress there through really significant collaborative efforts of a number of key departments, and I'll just express my personal gratitude to the Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney's Office, the Public Defender's Office, the Probation Department, and many, many others who've been coming together and not only having lots of very productive meetings on those topics, but also leveraging their resources to make positive progress in that area. And then finally, I would just highlight a huge body of work that's underway within the Social Services Agency in DEBS on the Medi-Cal redetermination process, and there'll be a report coming to the full board also in May that provides some information on what a massive endeavor that is here in our county, but also across the state, to take what has been 3 years of continuation of eligibility without reassessment for Medi-Cal beneficiaries due to the pandemic and some of the challenges we knew we'd have with doing those reassessments that are otherwise required, but the expiration of that period, and so needing to go through what is a much larger volume of Medi-Cal redeterminations to track folks down to make sure we can keep them enrolled, assuming they are eligible, notwithstanding the fact that they may have moved or otherwise have had updated contact information, maybe folks who need extra support to make sure that they can complete the redetermination process. So much more detailed information to be presented on that in May, but that's a huge endeavor that's underway and will be underway for the remainder of this upcoming fiscal year in DEBS. And with that, I will happy to answer any questions that either of you may have.
Great, thank you. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Greta. I really appreciate the report. I know it's very high level, but it gives us, I think, some really important glimpses into the massive scope of our work. I want to ask just a couple of questions about the DEBS work.
Sure.
Is specifically around the Medi-Cal check-ins. Is that being done by current employees, or is that something that is going to be contracted out? It does sound like a massive project.
It's being done by our current staff. It's also happening, I should say, in the context of also a transition to a new statewide technology system, which preceded the redetermination timeline. So our staff have been planning for this for a very, very long time. It's also the case that it's not that everyone needs to be, every Medi-Cal beneficiary's redetermination timeline is the same. It's staggered throughout the year here and elsewhere. And there's also been some really important and beneficial changes made at the state level that allow for much more automatic re-enrollment. So there's a number of steps that are taken at the outset where DEBS is able to confirm through review of information they have access to through databases related to, for example, people's state income tax filings and the like, that can allow them to be determined automatically re-eligible for enrollment, have their enrollment in Medi-Cal continue without any need for action on their part. And so the thresholds through which that can happen have been expanded through the state, which will be really beneficial. But until the process begins, we don't know exactly how daunting it will be, but there's been tremendous planning and focus on this upcoming process in DEBS, and more details will be provided, and any questions that you may have answered by SSA staff.
Thank you. Are there similar programs or technologies available for other other social service entitlements like CalFresh, CalWorks, where we know that far fewer people are enrolled than the population that's eligible, which means we have unnecessary additional poverty in our community, which puts a greater strain on us. And I'm wondering if going through this exercise gives us any insight on how we might better get the eligible population enrolled, not just in Medi-Cal, but in any other services that they should have access to.
Well, one thing I can highlight specifically on that front is there's been a change at the state level that has the staff at the county level who support enrollment in Medi-Cal, when a person is going in the Medi-Cal enrollment process, also check to see whether that person may be eligible to enroll in CalFresh.
Oh, good.
That's a process that's just starting, and we think that may yield a significantly higher enrollment rate in CalFresh, which we'd be really pleased to see. It's something that we know we can expand significantly, and there's a lot less folks that seem to be aware of the ability to enroll in CalFresh, and so the automatic kind of process that we'll be implementing to make sure that as folks come forward seeking Medi-Cal enrollment, that we simultaneously make them aware of and enroll them if they're eligible in CalFresh, we think may make a significant increase in the percentage of our residents that are enrolled in CalFresh.
That's great. And are there additional services? I know CalWorks is a smaller population, but it would be, I don't know what else to ask for because I don't know what the other services all are, but it would seem to me that we should be focused on really a one-stop shop to get people signed up for everything that they could be eligible for at one time.
I definitely think that's a huge policy goal for DEBS, and I'm happy to ask them to, when they come to report to the full board, be prepared to speak to other efforts akin to the one I just described that might relate to that.
Great, thank you very much.
So Greta, following up on these questions, it's certainly music to my ears to know that people are not just going to be all dropped at the same time. Everything is going to be, like you say, staggered going throughout the year based on batches, so that we are not really doing everybody at the same time. And so the impact would be far more drastic otherwise. In terms of the automatic re-enrollment, right, what type of question, let's talk about folks who might be undocumented. That might not have a social security number, but they have what we call an ITIN, right? The individual tax ID number. Will they be able to get enrolled with the Medi-Cal program when they file the taxes, showing that they don't meet the they would meet the income criteria?
You know, I can't speak to the exact mechanics, but as you know, we're seeing expanded Medi-Cal eligibility for undocumented residents of the state. And I know that they use multiple mechanisms to do the income determinations associated with all Medi-Cal beneficiaries that are done in a way that facilitates folks who may not have a social security number to meet those criteria. I can also ask that Debs be prepared to answer some questions specifically about the different mechanisms and availability of documenting some of that eligibility that they use to make sure that immigrants who may be eligible for Medi-Cal and other benefits are able to complete the enrollment process.
Right. And so basically, I would say there are two ways to get off the enrollment, right? Number one is your income level is too high, right? So you're no longer eligible. But the second one, which I think might be the more common way, is the fact that individuals not getting back to us, right? When we do not get the response on a timely fashion after we have reached out to them with no response. So at that point, then we will have to disenroll them. Am I correct?
You know, there is a point where if there's specific information that's needed, where if we cannot find or get in touch with the person, then they do lose their eligibility. But there are a lot of opportunities where they can retroactively re-enroll. If later they then go, for example, to see their doctor says, wait a second, you're not coming up as enrolled in Medi-Cal anymore, where they can then go see the doctor, go back and have their Medi-Cal kind of reauthorized. And there's also a whole range, partly spurred by this redetermination process where we know it's been a long time since that has happened and folks may have new contact information or may have moved, where we're using a lot more techniques to reach people, not just sort of the old-fashioned paper mail process, but using lots more techniques to contact people, for example, via text message, via phone, working with lots of external partners that may be having contact with our Medi-Cal beneficiaries to try and provide them information on the re-enrollment process. There's also a whole campaign led by the state to raise consciousness through media and other channels of the redetermination process to prime people that when they get a notice in the mail or they get a text message or a call, that this is what the call is likely about, and to go forward and do that re-enrollment process.
Good. Thank you very much. Okay, and that's all the questions I have for now. Any speaker on this issue?
There's no public comment.
Okay, great. And certainly there's no action we need to take on this one. And moving to item number 10. Thank you, Greta. Item number 10 is received a report from the Office of the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors relating to the contract for management audit services and forward to the Board of Supervisors for consideration and direction to the clerk regarding whether to issue a request for proposals or prepare a single source agreement with Harvey Rose Associates.
So I'm happy to just, I know I asked to pull this off of consent. I just want to offer direction, if that's all right. Hi, Curtis.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for the file. What I'd like to move that we forward this report to the board with a recommendation to implement a sole source exception. So, Curtis, is that then something that you can bring to the board agenda, or does the FGOC chair need to forward it to the board?
Do we need to actually read the Levine Act statement?
Yeah, pardon the interruption. I didn't want to jump in. But
Sure.
for the Levine Act, we have item number 10 is subject to the Levine Act. Any party or their agents and any participant who has financial interest or their agents must disclose on the record a contribution of more than $250 made to a board member as described on page 3 of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
So Curtis, can this be brought directly to a board meeting agenda with the sole source, or does the FGOC chair need to forward it to the board with our recommendation?
I think Curtis Boone, Assistant Clerk of the Board. I believe the appropriate process would be for the Clerk of the Board to bring an item to the Board of Supervisors for formal board direction to follow that path. So we'll put an item on the agenda with that recommendation from the committee included, and then once that is approved by the board, then we would commence the negotiation process.
Perfect, and that's my motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, I'll go and second that. No public would like to speak on this, correct?
Correct.
Okay, close the public hearing. And let's take a vote.
Vice Chairperson Ellenberg
Yes.
and Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well. So pass unanimously for item number 10. Let's go to item 11, which is a received report of the Office of County Executive relating to fiscal year 23-24 budget proposals from departments reporting to Finance and Government Operations Committee.
And Supervisor Lee, I also requested this item to be removed from consent, so I'm happy to be
Please.
brief and focused. Thank you. I realize, of course, that FGOC can't provide formal direction without a board vote, but I just want to take the opportunity to signal my interest in 2 items as administration is working through the recommended budget. First, the board has had several conversations about hybrid meetings, and I think you have heard from all 5 of us a significant interest in making all Brown-acted meetings accessible to the public and hybrid to whatever extent is permitted by law. So thinking about what the clerk's budget may need in order to support those changes, in order to enable remote meetings, would be a priority of mine. And while I can't speak for my colleagues, I'm certain you could poll them and would receive the same information. And then Second, and this is just a question to Dr. Smith, can you confirm that there's adequate funding in the budget for the child care subsidy to continue or to expand so that there's no eligible employee's request would be denied for a lack of funding?
Yes. I was processing. Yes, it's going to continue, and there'll be funding for it.
Okay, thank you. There were some questions from employees about whether this was a pilot or a short-term program, and I assured them that it's an ongoing benefit to eligible county employees, but just wanted to get that confirmed on the record.
Right.
Thank you so much. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair. There's no comment from public, correct?
No comment.
I'll go and close the public hearing. I do have a few comments here. So the board has received requests to provide remote public participation options for boards and commissions. The off-agenda report from the clerk of a board earlier this month notes 2 board clerk positions and 1 management analyst, associate management analyst staff is required to support the expansion of remote public participation services to 52 boards and commissions. However, the clerk of the board's budget request only requested 1 board clerk and 1 program manager, 2 to assist with the transition to the new agenda management system, but not the expansion of the remote public participation and board commission meeting. So I just want to note that point, which certainly agrees with what my vice chair has commented on, that we are concerned about these discrepancy and want to make sure that we do have enough in the budget to make sure it would meet those needs. Given the array of the emergencies and natural disasters our county experienced, I'm glad to see that there's a request to add the PM3 position to serve as Chief Recovery Officer in the Office of Emergency Management to plan, direct, and oversee the county-wide recovery programs and projects. In terms of language access, the pandemic certainly showed how important that is to our community, and I was very happy to see that the Division of Equity and Social Justice is requesting staff and technology resources to enhance that services. And in addition, the Office of Sustainability is going to be a very fast-growing office after the creation of the Sustainability Commission, and with the and so I certainly support additional resources to support the office beyond the modest request for the conference funds. While I'm supportive of OSH, the Office of Supportive Housing's request for one-time resources to support the temporary shelter program at Casita de Esperanza and the investments in the homelessness prevention system, I'm also increasingly concerned about the individuals and families who are not fortunate to secure housing placement. I agree we need to further augment OSH operations, support more individuals and families who are experiencing homelessness, and especially those children. Similarly, we know that the reentry, rapid rehousing, and emergency assistance programs help reentry clients from reoffending. The request from the reentry would allocate an additional $750,000 for hotel stay, rent, and deposit assistance, and utility payments to help stabilize reentry clients. Is that amount enough? And can we add discussion during the budget workshop on housing options, either purchasing property that could be transitional for reentry clients and that the office diversion and reentry services might be able to manage?
That was a question for me?
Yeah, I guess, it's a question, but is that 750 would be enough, or is this something we should relook at potentially?
Certainly, the board, we expect to discuss that during the workshops.
Right. Okay, so highlighted to be continued.
Yes.
And I think look forward to certainly more discussions at our budget workshops to come. And I think that's all I have for now. And I believe this takes us to the, well, actually, this we'll go and take a vote on receiving this report. Yes.
As you like. I move that we accept the report.
And I'll second that. We'll go and take the vote.
Vice Chairperson Ellenberg.
Yes.
And Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well. Thank you. And this takes us to the end of the meeting for adjournment. And our next meeting is scheduled on Thursday, May 26th at 10 a.m. right here at the board chamber. And see you on May. Thank you.
Thank you.